Hey guys, Credible Crypto here with a major market update. Um, I said I would make a major video update yesterday, posted on YouTube, and we did have the weekly close today, and so I held off. I made the original video, recorded it, and then it found out at the end of the recording that only the first 5 minutes got recorded, so I had to redo it, but then figured I'd wait for the weekly close, which was today, which we just had. To make the video because I figured the weekly close would give us a little bit more information that may be relevant to this video. This is a major market update, guys, on Bitcoin and Ethereum primarily. I may talk about a few other coins, including Ripple as well, but this is the focus of this video is going to be on Bitcoin and Ethereum because essentially I think that they will decide the direction for a majority of the rest of the market. So this video is going to focus on those two. Recall from my last video, guys, what we were looking for essentially was, I believe that we had completed our major wave 1 and that we were seeing a deeper correction for our wave 2 before a major wave 3, a wave 4, and then of course our major wave 5 to the upside here. That is what I discussed in the last video, and I gave my reasoning and my explanation behind why I think that this major wave 1 is now complete, and that I'd expect to see a 30 to 40% drop from the highs of this major 1, a 42% drop, putting us right in my area of interest here between 7.2 to 8.9K. So this is the area that I was looking to add spot holdings to my Bitcoin stockpile, right here between 7.2 to 8.9K. And I explained the rationale behind why this is my area of interest in my last video, so I'm not going to go over it again. If you guys haven't seen that, go ahead and watch the last video first, and you'll get an idea of why I designated this region as my area of interest for potential spot longs to add here. Before we make our major wave 3 up, that would ultimately clear the highs at 20K, and then of course push up on higher, all right? So in this video today, guys, I'm going to talk about two possibilities, all right? This still remains very viable, all right? This is still very much in play, but there's one other possibility that I want to discuss, and that is that this major wave 1 is actually not yet complete yet, and that we haven't actually seen our blow off top, implying that we may get a little bit more further upside before we get the real major wave 2 correction, all right? And so this how it is now. Let's talk about the potential wave counts for what we're seeing here. And when I made the video last time, I can't remember if I discussed the wave counts or how much progress we had made with the wave count, but essentially was looking for one of a few things, either a WXY. Let me go ahead and show that off. So either a WXY to take us down to our area of interest, or I think I was looking for an expanded flat to take us down to that area of interest, or I was looking for a so regular expanded flat. I believe that's all I was looking for. Yeah, so as far as a bearish scenario goes, I think at that point in time we were making this wave up, and so I said it's possible that this is the start of a 5-wave impulse to the upside and that this was our correction altogether. But I said that if that's not the case, if it's not the bullish case, then the only other two viable options that I could see are either an expanded flat or a regular flat, or like a running flat, right, which would end up here. But the running flat's obviously invalidated at this point, so either an expanded or a regular flat were the other two options I proposed if we were not making a bullish impulse to the upside. As you guys can see now, we clearly are not making a bullish impulse to the upside. We had 1, 2, 3 waves, and then we immediately corrected down with another 3-legged move. So the only way that this could really be a bullish move to the upside is if we had this 1, this was an expanded flat as a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5. That's possible still, but with how close we've come to invalidation here, I think it's unlikely to be the case, all right? So this play still remains very viable, meaning that I still think that we can reach down into the 7.2 to 8.8K region on this current drop, but there's one other scenario that I can see that has us continuing up from here for one more leg. And this would be a smaller subwave of this larger move up. We get another push to the upside, essentially still continuing up with this somewhat of a parabolic advance before we actually get the major wave 2, all right? And I can go over the subwave count that I have here to explain that, but I don't want to confuse you guys. It's basically an extended subwave in this structure here that is not quite completed with the 5th wave just yet, all right? Something like this, essentially. And then we'll be going almost vertical here, and then we'll get our blow off top, which will be a larger correction. And no saying how low that goes, but I think that if we don't reach this zone on this current correction, then it's still very possible that we do hit 8.5K. It would be a fairly deep retracement depending on how high we go here. It could be a 40 to 50% retracement, but we've seen from prior drops in Bitcoin that is not impossible, all right? So definitely something that I'm keeping in mind here as a possibility. Let's talk about the shorter term counts right now to see and and I'm going to talk to you guys about Ethereum as well, goes hand in hand with this, but I'm going to talk to you guys about why I think that we may still have one more leg to the upside before we get our actual wave 2 correction, based upon what I'm seeing on some of the other charts here, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the correction right here, all right? So if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I had the flat corrections as an option, and then I also had this triangle idea as an option, all right? And this idea basically implied that we were forming a symmetrical triangle as a wave 4 before that final 5th wave to the upside, and it would imply that our low for this current correction was actually here at 9.7K, all right? And then we'd get a ABCD triangle here, and then we would ultimately break to the upside as such, right? And that would give us, again, we know that triangles can only occur in wave 4 positions in an impulse, so that would give us our final 5th wave to the upside to maybe 16, 17,000, or maybe even a little bit higher before we actually got our real major wave 2 correction to the downside. Okay, so that was one option, which is still technically valid because we haven't cleared these lows, but I would have liked to have seen a greater slope here. The slope is now almost horizontal, you know, like it's almost horizontal here, so I'm not a big fan of this still being a triangle here, although like I said, it technically could be a triangle. So let's take a look at some of the other options that we have if this isn't a triangle because of this near horizontal slope. I would have liked to have seen a more contracting slope on the bottom trend line to maintain that this was a triangle, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other options. Let me first, before I go more into this here, let's take a quick look at Ethereum, guys, and that will help explain my rationale as to why I think that we may not be visiting this region until we get one more pump to the upside, all right? So let's go real quick to the Ethereum chart because it kind of goes hand in hand with what Bitcoin's doing here. So Ethereum, guys, if you've been following my analysis on Ethereum, you know that I've been mentioning that this 210 level, which we've essentially just bounced off of, this 210 level is a vital level here for Ethereum. I made a video specifically on Ethereum and why losing the 210 level would be disastrous, not just for Ethereum, but for the entire crypto market as a whole. It would imply that we may not be seeing an impulsive move to the upside, or rather a corrective move off the lows at $80, which would then imply that we're likely to see new lows here on Ethereum. And if we're going to see new lows on Ethereum, then I would expect to see new lows across the board in the crypto markets on many coins. Bitcoin, maybe not. Maybe Bitcoin would have held like 3,000 to 5,000 or 6,000 or something. But generally, I wouldn't expect Ethereum to make new lows here. For that to happen, we need a very drastic drop on Bitcoin as well. And so I mentioned how this 210 level was essentially the last stand, and then hitting 166 would be really bad for Ethereum and the whole market, you know, as a whole. But let's go ahead and take a look at Ethereum here on the 3-day chart on why this 210 level is significant. And there's a few different reasons for that. And we'll talk about why I think that this bounce, or maybe we go a little bit lower first, but I think that we could be making our local low here on Ethereum. Now, for this to work, Ethereum needs to hold this region essentially to maintain bullish structure, is what my thesis is. And for that to happen, it means that Bitcoin cannot really dump to 7.2K at this point in time, because that would send Ethereum much lower than it already is. Ethereum's sitting here at 217, while Bitcoin's sitting at 10,200. So imagine another 30% drop on Bitcoin from where we are now down to 7,000. There's no way that Ethereum maintains 210 if Bitcoin's going to drop another 30%. So that's one reason why I think that Bitcoin may have seen its local low here, and why I'm holding out hope for one more push to the upside on Bitcoin before we do visit that 7.2 to 8.9K region. But let's go ahead and talk about Ethereum first, and let me talk to you guys about this chart real quick. So this is Ethereum, and we have our 3-day chart here. And let me go ahead and add the RSI as well. Also, guys, if this, again, I've talked about this on Twitter already, but it ties into what I'm going to talk about on Bitcoin, which I haven't yet discussed on Twitter. So you may have already seen this, and maybe a little bit repetitive if you do follow me on Twitter, but just bear with me here. It has to do with what I'm going to talk about on Bitcoin, and I haven't yet discussed that on Twitter. I've only discussed it in my private Discord. So let's go ahead and talk about Ethereum here, and we'll take a look at RSI. And this is the key order block here that led to our capitulation on Ethereum, right? So guys, this is sorry, I got a phone call, but this is a key level that led to the capitulation on Ethereum. We dropped from 211 down to 80 over a 50% decline here, or 100% decline, I guess that would be, right? 100% decline. 50% decline here. Ethereum's price got cut in half, and this was essentially capitulation. So this is a major level that we are now retesting. This wick here can be ignored. It only occurred on BitMEX. It did not occur on any other exchange. Had to do with some liquidity issues or some problem that BitMEX had. So I wouldn't take this into account here. I believe that this is the first major retest of our capitulation level, right? Essentially, from here we dropped, we made lows of the bear market, and now we're retesting that level essentially. So this is a major level for Ethereum that should hold. And if you guys have seen some of my much older YouTube videos, you know that I use RSI analysis as well. And I've talked about this actually back when we were falling from 20K, and I made a video on this talking about how the 40 and 60 RSI levels are sort of key indicators to bullish and bearish markets, right? So in bullish markets, we do not usually enter the 40 RSI or drop below 40 RSI on the higher time frame, such as a 3-day or the 1 week, etc. Right? Whereas in bullish market, whereas in bearish markets, we typically do not break 60. Right? Now note here, this chart doesn't go back far enough. Let me go to another chart real quick that has more price history. Right here. So note here, guys. Ever since our drop on Ethereum from its high at 1400. We dipped below 60, and then we never broke past 60 during the entire bear market until Ethereum bottomed out and then started moving up. And then finally broke above 60, which was another key indicator that I believed the bull market had returned, broke above 60, right? So keep in mind that in bull markets, we tend to maintain above 40 as support, and in bear markets, 60 RSI tends to act as resistance. So for the entire bear market, 60 RSI acted as resistance until we broke through, and that was during the next bull market, which I believe is the bull market. And then during the entire bull market over here, we held above 40, right? So this was the last bear market. Once the bull market started, we never dipped below 40 until this level here, which is when the bear market was in full effect. So these two levels are very, very important, and it's a very easy way to kind of get an overall gauge of the market, right? And note that right now, ever since we bottomed out, we have not, so we bottomed out here, right over here, and that was when we broke above 40, that was when we bottomed out, and since then we have never once dipped below 40 RSI. So I expect RSI on the 3-day to hold at 40 if we really are in a bullish market. All right, we should bounce off of this level. Okay, so back to the BitMEX chart here, and note that once again we are nearing that 40 level, which should be a very vital bounce point, and that's coinciding with a retest of our capitulation level. All right, so this is essentially what I believe to be the last stand for Ethereum here, and it could be the best opportunity to add to your spot bags, because if this level holds, it will be the local bottom. This would have been the major pullback. This will be the local bottom before we make new highs above 365, targeting 400 and then 450 just to get started. So a near 100% increase off these lows if this really is the bottom, which it should be if we are in a bull market. All right. A couple of other things to note. Look at the volume, guys. The volume on this drop from here has been declining significantly. We had a strong increase in volume here. Volume started to taper off on this leg out to the upside, but volume on this drop has been declining even more. All right, so no one is really selling at these levels. All right, this is a level where buyers should step in, and so I should expect to see volume to increase from this level, but the dropping of volume on this decline is a bullish sign, if anything. All right, we've seen a major drop, but volume has been absolutely abysmal, meaning that there's not many buyers or sellers in this range, but that makes sense because buyers are likely waiting for a retest of this region to flock in. Right, they're not buying up here in the where there's no support. They're looking to buy at an area where there is support, and that is this 3-day RSI block right here that coincides with our 3-day RSI approaching the 40 level. All right, now let's take a look at some trend lines. Right, we can use trend lines to act as support. If we go ahead and map out some key trend lines here, we can see that we have trend line support in this green region as well, right, off of these lows. So we bounced, made a move up. Looks like we're just retesting this 3-day block along with this trend line, right? So this trend line sits here at about 197 to 198 or 195, depending on how when we actually hit it. So I do think that there's a chance that we do make one more little push to the downside here to tap this trend line, or also the bottom of this order block. Notice, guys, note the buy volume here, right? So on this drop, let's go to the 15-minute chart. Major buy volume here. Some sort of volume coming in either on this drop or soon after, but also massive spike in buy volume on this wick. This one doesn't have a wick, so maybe it was actually sell volume coming in here. But this is the key level. This trend line, along with this order block, is where I'd expect us to bounce off of. We also have this little block right here. Maybe we dip into 188 to 193, dip below this order block, test this level, which was the level that gave us the break above this major resistance level, and then we hold. All right, so that's what I'm looking for here on Ethereum, guys. So now that we've established why I'm bullish here on Ethereum and why I think that this is such a vital level that really should hold if we're in a bullish market, let's go back to Bitcoin and talk about how Bitcoin plays into this chart. All right, now that we can see where Ethereum's at and why it's at such a pivotal point here in order to maintain bullishness for Ethereum. All right, so back to Bitcoin now. And now you guys can see, you guys will get an idea of why I think that we may not reach this zone on this particular drop. With another, I mean, down to 8,800 is just about a 12% drop. So maybe we get that, and maybe Ethereum holds there. But with a drop of this much, with a drop that's going this much lower, I find it very hard for that Ethereum will be able to maintain the support that it's currently sitting at, which is a vital support. Again, for Ethereum and the entire market as a whole. So now let's take a look at Bitcoin on the smaller time frames and see if we're not going to revisit this region, what type of a correction could we be seeing here if it's not going to be that WXY that takes us down to the red zone, right? So again, our WXY was this three-legged move, and then a three-legged move. Note how we've already gotten 1, 2, 3 legs here, right? So that's the other thing to keep in mind. If this is a WXY, then this Y could be close to complete already, all right? A 1-to-1 of the W to the Y would give us a move down to 9.5K, all right? So maybe that's all we get, and then maybe we don't actually visit this region, okay? Or maybe we hit 9.3. 9.3K is the next significant level of support if you look at the higher time frame. It's a weekly support level. We actually lost the weekly support in the smaller time frames, so this is a key level as well. So maybe we do dip down to 9.3 and then get our bounce. But let's also take a look real quick at the higher time frame. So on the weekly, not a great weekly close, guys. Actually, a pretty bad weekly close. I was hoping for a weekly close right here above this level here at, sorry, not at 10.7. I was hoping for a weekly close. Was it at 10.7? Yeah, 10.7 was the ideal weekly close. Holding this area of support, we've lost it now, so that's not a good sign. The next immediate area of weekly support is right here at 9.6, which recall is kind of that 1-to-1 extension of the W to the Y. And then below that, the next major weekly support is right here at 87.50. All right, or actually it's 87.50 here is the next major weekly support if we happen to lose this 9.6K level. All right, on the daily, let's go to the daily real quick. We have this little block that should act as support on the daily. So this is the 9.3K level. The daily also closed very badly. I would have liked to have seen a daily close above 10.5. So I was looking for a close above 10.7 ideally. But if we got a close above 10.5, that would have been good enough for me. I would have been happy with that as a daily close above the support level. But as you guys can see, we obviously lost that level, right? So on the daily time frame, the next support level is this 9.3K region, right? So we could see a dip into that 9.3K region. There's no support here on the daily for where we're currently at, okay? Let's take a look. Now, aside from there not being support and it seeming like 9.3K is the obvious next step for us, and then below that, the 8.8K region, which is our buy zone, I'm trying to see if there's any way that we could hold here, right? And essentially, if we do hold here, it would be just a massive bear trap that would probably catch a lot of people by surprise, as I know many people are now aiming for the 8 to 9K regions since we had such a bearish weekly close. However, keep in mind, we've had bearish weekly closes in the past. Example right here, when we immediately spiked up the next week. So although we did have a very bearish weekly close, it doesn't mean that we can't go up from here. It just means that it seems a lot less likely that we will go up from here. And that's why a lot of people are aiming for the 8 to 9K regions at this point in time, just because of how bearish these closes were, right? But if we do get another bear trap, similar to the bear trap that we got on this weekly close here, which I thought, I was one who straight up said it, this is a terrible weekly close, this looks extremely bearish, and I was expecting a move back down at that point because of how bearish this was, and then obviously we immediately popped back up with a bullish, not quite engulfing candle, but a bullish candle that reclaimed the highs. So if this is another bear trap similar to what we saw here, then we could trick a lot of people here, right? And what I would expect then is, looking at the wave structure of what we have now, something that I noticed, guys, is that we do have on the smaller time frame, on the daily, we have this block here that, let's go to the daily. That wasn't the daily, it was maybe the 4 hourly. So we have this block here right here that was the block. It wasn't a very strong move to the upside from here, but it's the last block on the daily that we're kind of holding as somewhat of a support here. Actually, I guess this would probably be a more significant level, this little red block here, because the move up from it was a lot stronger. So let me go ahead and mark that one off. So that's around 9.8K. So this is a more significant level. We already tested it once. And then if we go to the smaller time frames on the hourly, we can see that we have this little block right here that led to this strong green move to the upside, which we held, right? So this little hourly block here is what's acting as support right now, and we're holding it. But again, it's on the hourly, so it's not super significant. But what I noticed, guys, was that we have some very clear three-legged structures here, right? Now, aside from that triangle, which I mentioned is still technically valid unless we lose 9.6K, although I don't like how it looks as much anymore. Aside from that, there's a few other scenarios here that I can see that essentially have us not reaching these levels and moving sideways here, allowing alts like Ethereum to maintain support and then make moves to the upside. And that is that maybe we are forming a very complex larger WXY here, with this internal X being a flat correction in and of itself. All right, and the reason I say that is because thus far, and this could change very quickly by the time I finish this video, but thus far we have gotten I believe it's a near perfect 90% retracement of this leg here. So let me go ahead and so recall that based on traditional Elliott wave rules, the B wave of a flat correction of a 335 flat should retrace at least 90% of the A wave. So if we take this as a W wave, right, and then this X wave as a flat, a 335 flat in and of itself, we needed to see a retracement to at least 10,018, which we got, all right, and we should not clear the lows here at 96.55 for this to be a regular flat. But this currently fulfills the requirements of a regular flat, which would be a 335 structure, right? And that's going to be an A for a three-legged structure, a B for a three-legged structure, and then a C that would be a five-legged structure to the upside to complete this possible potential X wave, all right? And this measurement of the C leg should be anywhere between a 1 to 1.23 of this B leg, all right? If the B leg is complete here, that gives us an estimated target for the C leg of anywhere between 3298 and 14,000. Okay, so essentially this zone would be our target here for the C leg if this is a flat correction, right? And then after this flat correction completes as our X wave, then we would get another three-legged move down for a Y wave, right? And essentially this would be one fat choppy range that would allow alts to run, all right? With Ethereum hanging on to support, a vital support, this type of a move would absolutely allow Ethereum to make some strong moves to the upside. It's hanging on its probable low for this correction, and it should only go up from here for it to maintain bullish market structure. So with Bitcoin moving sideways for essentially what would be another month or so, it would have plenty of time for Ethereum to rebound off of this support, continue up, along with many other altcoins that are at these vital supports, Ripple being another one of them that I'm eyeing as well. So I like this idea. It would also trick a lot of people that are waiting to buy in this region. Everyone is waiting to buy 7.2 to 8.5K. Everyone is waiting to buy that level, including myself, right? So this would also get a lot of people really antsy, because rather than dipping to where we're all trying to buy, we just continue up and continue sideways essentially for another month, just chop, right? So this is a very viable scenario that I see based upon these three-legged structures that I keep seeing here everywhere, right? The alternate to this, again, is that we don't go up from here and that we are actually making that that flat correction, right? That WXY, which is just essentially a complex flat, right? The only reason why I don't call it an ABC here is because based on traditional Elliott wave rules, again, the B wave of this potential flat should retrace 90% of this A wave, and we didn't get the 90%. This fell short of 90%. So rather than seeing a five-wave move down here for the C wave, I'm not surprised we're seeing a three-legged move, because I think rather than a simple ABC flat correction, we're just seeing a WXY complex correction, which is a 3-3-3-legged structure as opposed to a 3-3-5-legged structure. This three-legged move also looks pretty much complete as well, right? So that plays along with the idea that maybe we're just making a larger flat here before we get another Y to the downside. If we take the measured move of the first leg of this Y projected from the top. Gives us a move down to 9.6K. That's a 1-to-1 extension. So essentially a bounce very shortly here for this X wave before we get a Y wave to the downside. So this move could also be almost complete as well, right? So a lot of reasons for me to think that this level is not necessarily guaranteed on this current leg. If we do go up from here, if we do go a little bit lower and then go up from here, and we get this X wave forming here, then it convinces me even more that we're not going to see this region yet. Then we'll likely get a Y wave, and then we'll likely push up for one final leg to the upside that I've been talking about, and then we'll likely get a larger correction on the downside once this final leg up completes, right? So guys, this was a major video update on what I'm seeing here on Bitcoin and Ethereum, and really using the Ethereum chart in tandem with what I'm seeing on Bitcoin to kind of develop some conclusions on what could be happening here. Also on Bitcoin, the volume on this drop again is quite uninspiring, right? So again, in corrections, we tend to see declining volume throughout the life of the correction. Note that even on this drop, rather than seeing increasing volume, we are seeing declining volume again. So lots of arguments to be made for a potential bounce very shortly here on Bitcoin before we hit our coveted buy region of 7.2 to 8.8K, all right? If we take a look at Ripple, let me go ahead and go to my Ripple chart here because I'll talk about that as well. So guys, here's my Ripple chart, and Ripple is another coin that I think is essentially at its bottom, at its low here, and a lot of people calling for, I don't know where it's supposed to go from here. I think it can go a little bit lower. I think it can go down to test this green curve that we have here that I think is sort of acting as a base for Ripple, essentially making a accumulation base here. So I think we can go lower, sure, maybe down to 25 cents. But I find it very hard to believe that we lose that and go to this 15-cent level that some people are talking about, or that Ripple dies off here like many are talking about. I think that it's just essentially bottom. We know that Ripple, we already know, guys, we've seen in the past that Ripple always lags, right? It doesn't run with everything else. It runs randomly when nothing else is running, and it consolidates at times when everything else is running. We know this, and we've seen it happen in the past so many times. So people that are getting impatient with Ripple, it's always been a long-term game. It was never going to rocket up immediately, and you just have to be patient. I see a lot of people selling off the Ripple bags here at 30 cents, and it makes absolutely no sense to me why you would sell at what looks to be such a perfect bottom. Even if we do get another low below this level to essentially like clear the lows as often happens with these major consolidation levels, all that means is that we could get it would be a final washout before we continue the upside. If you think we are in a bull market, this is the simplest fact that I can come up with, which is why I don't understand the bearishness that surrounds Ripple. If you think we really are in a bull market, if you think that Bitcoin is headed to new highs, then looking at the facts, guys, Ripple has been in the top 5 market cap for the top 3 market cap for the past 5 years. It's forming what looks to be a picture perfect accumulation bottom. It's if you think we're in a new bull market, then you either think that Ripple is going to die and go to zero here and it's not going to rise with the rest of the other shitcoins that are going to rise during this bull market, or it's going to pump like mad. It's going to do one of the two. It's going to die and fail, or it's going to pump like mad. So if you are bearish here, you think that Ripple is going to die and fail and go to zero. And I know many people hate Ripple and think that it's not a real cryptocurrency, and this is why they think it's going to happen. But realistically, guys, I don't see that happening. When hundreds and thousands of other shitcoins are going to survive this bear market and essentially make massive pumps to the upside just because we're still in such early stages of the cryptocurrency, boom. I don't see Ripple being one to fail at this point in time. Okay, even if Ripple is a shitcoin, even if you believe nothing about its fundamentals, it's one of the top 3 shitcoins for the past 5 years in that case. And I do think that it has more pumps left in it before it finally dies out. So absolutely not bearish on Ripple here. I do think that we could make another dip below these key support levels. I've mapped these out. Charted these out, and basically these are key levels that need to hold, with this green level being what I am deeming to be the last stand, similar to where Ethereum is at at 200 right now. I see this green level as being the last chance for Ripple. I really wouldn't want to see it dip below here. That would concern me. Although it could just be one final move down to clear the lows, it's still not what I would like to see. Note that we did have this red region being the key little block before the massive pump to the upside in the last bull market. So maybe we do test this area where I'm sure many buy orders are waiting. So I can see a final push down to clear these two lows into this region here, but that's at 22 to 25 cents, and anything lower than that would absolutely surprise me. I would not expect to see anything lower than that Ripple, and it's possible we don't even get that low. It's possible we just continue up from here. But I'm keeping that open as a final option in case Bitcoin makes that dump to 7.2K, which I think would send Ripple down to this region, all right? So with all this in mind, guys, I'm still very bullish on Ripple in general, all right? Still holding a nice fat bag. I picked up that bag at 30 cents, so I'm really just about to break even right now. It is a long-term hold. I didn't bother selling any at these levels because for me, I plan on holding it for at least a year or longer. It's not something that I want to let go of anytime soon, but right about at break even right now, and anything lower than this red block here would absolutely surprise me on Ripple. And at that point in time, if it doesn't recover immediately, I would definitely be concerned for the future of Ripple. But right now, there's nothing to be concerned about, in my opinion. I think we're just making a nice accumulation-based pattern here before getting what's bound to be another parabolic move to the upside, similar to what we saw during the last bull market, except of course this one will be of much greater magnitude. All right. So that's all I have for you guys in this video update. Again, to go over one more time why I believe the bottom may be near for this drop, or why I would like to see recovery here. Sorry, this is the wrong chart. Why I would like to see recovery here on Bitcoin soon for the sake of Ethereum and the crypto market as a whole. Again, to recap, if this is some sort of a larger WXY, we could expect a bounce here shortly. We could hold and not clear these lows, surprise everyone and get a nice little bounce to the upside here. Or maybe we do clear these lows. In that case, I'm looking for a reaction between 9.1 to 9.3K. And then if we lose that, we enter the spot buy zone. Okay, this is where I'll be buying spot of Bitcoin with the remaining fiat that I have saved up. And then again on Ethereum, one more look at the Ethereum chart to recap. Ethereum hitting a vital support level here on the 3-day chart, coinciding with a vital support level here on the 3-day RSI. Both of these levels I think must hold, which is why I think that Bitcoin holds here or relatively soon as well, rather than dipping to 7.2 to 8K at this particular time. That doesn't mean that we won't go there down in the future. We could get a pop-up on Bitcoin to make one more leg to the upside and then visit 8.5K. That's fine. By that time, Ethereum should have made a strong move to the upside as well. But kind of on the last stand here for Ethereum as well. All right. So that's all I have for you guys in this video update. For Bitcoin in particular, I'm not buying spot right now just because of how bearish this weekly close was. The weekly and the daily close, I should say. So not interested in buying spot here on Bitcoin at all until we get some sort of a bounce, and cautious on Ethereum as well. Unless we hit that 195 area, which is a bounce off that trend line, at that point I may consider buying some spot. But on Ethereum as well, I really just want to see Bitcoin make a move and show me that it's not going to plummet here, because if it does, Ethereum's pretty much screwed at that point, right? Because we're on that last stand level for Ethereum. So just being cautious here, not being too eager to jump into any more spot buys on Bitcoin, Ripple, or Ethereum at this point in time, because I'm waiting to see some sort of a strong positive reaction for Bitcoin off of the levels that we're currently sitting at. Once we get a strong positive reaction off of Bitcoin, at that point in time, I will likely look for leverage longs on Ethereum, because I do believe that Ethereum is at its local low as well, and then we'll go from there. All right, that's all I have for you guys in this update video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out in the comments, and I'll try and get back to you guys as soon as possible. All right, thanks, guys.